Ever feel like you're just kind of autopilot?
Yeah.
Your mind's just like churning with worries and to-do lists and like never-ending stuff?
Oh, yeah, totally.
What if there was a way to like hit the pause button on all that mental chaos and actually tap into like a deeper sense of peace right here and now?
Well, that's exactly the kind of powerful invitation that Eckhart Tolle offers in The Power of Now. And the excerpts that you shared really highlight that central message. It's not about, like adding another thing to your never-ending to-do list.
Right.
But more about shifting your whole perspective.
Yeah.
On how you actually experience life itself.
Okay, so let's dive into Tolle's key takeaways from the book.
Okay, sounds good.
Key takeaway number 1 is this idea that you are not your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Which honestly sounds kind of radical at first.
Right.
It's like, if I'm not my mind, then who am I?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That is like the million-dollar question. And that's exactly what Tolle helps us kind of explore. So he's not saying to like deny the mind's existence or anything,
True.
but rather to recognize that it's a tool, We can use the mind as a tool, but it's not the master. We don't have to obey it. Think about it. How often do you get caught in these thought loops? Like replaying some awkward conversation or worrying about something that might not even happen.
Oh my gosh, all the time.
Yeah.
Like just last week, I was so stressed about this presentation I had to give.
Mm-hmm.
And then it turned out totally fine. All that worry for absolutely nothing.
Exactly. That's your mind like trapping you, running on autopilot. But you, like the real you is the awareness behind those thoughts.
Okay.
You actually have the power to choose which thoughts you engage with and which ones you just kind of let go of. Like you choose which app to open on your phone,
That's a good analogy.
Yeah.
So key takeaway number 2 is where things get really juicy. The power of now. So it's not enough to just recognize that I'm not my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I actually need to shift my focus to this present moment, like right now.
Exactly. That's what Tolle's getting at. He says, all negativity, like all of it, stems from dwelling in the past or, worrying about the future. But the present moment, like right now, is always available. It's like this constant source of peace and joy, no matter what crazy stuff is happening around you.
It's like when you're finally on vacation and you like stop checking work emails and stuff. You're actually
Nice.
present.
Yeah.
You're enjoying the sunset. You're feeling the sand between your toes.
Yeah.
That's the power of now.
Yes, exactly. And the amazing thing is you don't have to be on vacation to access that, The present moment is always here, waiting to be experienced.
Okay, this is making me think differently about my daily grind already.
Good.
All right, on to key takeaway number 3. Dissolving the pain body. This one sounds kind of intense.
Yeah, it might sound a little dramatic, but I think we all know this feeling. So Tolle describes the pain body as this like accumulation of past emotional hurts that we all carry around. It's like this shadow self that can get triggered by situations in the present and make us react in ways that might not be who we truly are.
Okay, I think I get it. It's like when someone criticizes my work and I just feel like a total failure, even though I know it's just one person's opinion.
Exactly. That could be your pain body getting triggered, bringing up all those old feelings of inadequacy. But like recognizing it.
Okay.
Recognizing the pain body allows you to choose a different response, one that's more you.
So it's not about suppressing those like painful feelings, but about being aware of them.
Yes.
Almost like watching them from a distance.
Yes. It's about creating space between the feeling and your reaction to it. And as you bring awareness to those patterns, the pain body's grip starts to loosen.
Okay. This is giving me a whole new perspective on how to deal with those tough emotions. On to key takeaway number 4. Finding the life underneath your life situation.
This one is super powerful. Tolle reminds us that it's so easy to get caught up in the problems and dramas of our external circumstances, like our jobs, our relationships, but that's not where our true life actually resides.
It's like focusing on the waves crashing on the surface of the ocean.
Yes.
Instead of the vast depths below.
Perfect analogy. He's encouraging us to shift our focus from the mind stuff of our life situation to the aliveness of the present moment. So your life situation might be full of ups and downs, but your life is happening now, like in this breath, in this feeling, in this awareness.
Okay, that's really powerful. Key takeaway number 5. The meaning of surrender. I feel like this one's often misunderstood.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's not about giving up or becoming passive.
No, absolutely not. Surrender, in Tolle's view, is about aligning yourself with the flow of life. Rather than resisting it, it's about accepting what is without judgment and just allowing things to unfold naturally.
So it's more about letting go of control,
Yeah.
trusting that things will work out, even if it's not exactly how we envisioned it.
Exactly. It's like when you're trying to force a square peg into a round hole.
Okay, yeah.
You can keep pushing and struggling, or you can just surrender to the reality that it's not going to fit. And in that surrender, you open yourself up to all these new possibilities.
Key takeaway number 6, and this one's pretty mind-blowing, transformation through the body. It sounds like he's challenging the idea that the body is somehow separate from our spiritual essence.
Exactly right. Tolle actually encourages us to feel our inner body, the energy flowing through us, and to discover this divine energy that's within our own physical form.
So it's not about rejecting the body or seeing it as like a hindrance to enlightenment, but about reclaiming it as a source of wisdom and like a pathway to spiritual awakening.
Precisely. He even talks about this concept of the inner body, this subtle energy field that we can access through focused attention that allows us to kind of transcend the limitations of our physical form and tap into a deeper dimension of being.
Wow. This is all so much to take in. It's like Tolle is giving us a whole new map for navigating life, one that leads us away from the suffering of the mind and into the joy of being present.
It's a radical shift in perspective, and I think it takes a willingness to kind of question everything we thought we knew about ourselves and the world.
Well, you're doing a great job helping me unpack all of this. But before we get too carried away, let's take a step back and see how this all connects to the bigger picture. What does Tolle have to say about the state of humanity and the world we live in?
That's a great question. And Tolle doesn't shy away from addressing the collective challenges we face. In fact, he offers some pretty stark observations, but also a glimmer of hope.
Yeah.
So you're right. He doesn't really hold back. He describes humanity as a dangerously insane species.
Oh.
Yeah. And he's highlighting the collective dysfunction and unconsciousness that kind of drives so much conflict and suffering in the world.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty intense. I mean, look around. There's war and environmental destruction and political polarization. It's easy to feel kind of hopeless sometimes.
Right. And he acknowledges that darkness for sure. But he doesn't leave us there, He points to a way out, a path towards healing and transformation, both individually and collectively.
So that path leads through the power of now.
Exactly. He suggests that as individuals kind of awaken to their true nature, as they learn to access the peace and the presence of the now, they become like these ripples of sanity spreading out, into a sea of madness.
So it's not just about my own personal peace of mind, but about contributing to a larger shift in human consciousness.
Precisely. He even goes so far as to say that this awakening is our only chance for survival. As a species, it's about recognizing our interconnectedness, realizing that our individual well-being is completely inseparable from the well-being of the planet and all beings.
Okay, no pressure or anything, but how do we actually make this shift happen?
Yeah.
He mentions these portals into the unmanifested, but it all sounds kind of abstract to me.
It might sound mystical, but he's actually offering some really practical ways to access this deeper dimension of being.
Yeah.
One portal, as we talked about earlier, is through the body, by becoming aware of our physical sensations, our breath, the energy flowing through us. We can kind of tap into the stillness and presence of the now.
Right, connecting with that inner body he talks about.
Yes, exactly. Another portal is through the cessation of thinking, quieting that mental chatter and creating space for stillness. And practices like meditation can be super helpful in cultivating this awareness.
So it's about learning to just observe those thoughts without getting carried away by them, like watching clouds drift by.
Beautifully put. He also mentions space itself as a portal. By becoming aware of the empty space around us, we can kind of simultaneously become aware of this space of no mind, of pure consciousness.
It's like stepping out of a crowded, noisy city and into the vast, silent expanse of the desert.
I love that image. He even talks about death as a portal.
Whoa.
Suggesting that at the moment of death, there's this brief opening to the unmanifested.
Okay.
But unless we've already encountered this dimension during our lifetime, we're likely to miss it.
Wow, that's intense. But it makes sense. If we haven't practiced being present while we're alive, how can we expect to be present in the face of death?
Exactly. That's why he emphasizes the importance of cultivating presence now, while we still have the opportunity to explore these portals.
So it's not about waiting for some future enlightenment, but about waking up to the reality of being, right now, in this very moment.
Yes. He even offers this simple but powerful criterion for determining whether we've allowed ourselves to be taken over by the mind. Ask yourself, is there joy, ease, and lightness in what I'm doing?
If not, it's a sign that we're resisting the nameless. making the present moment into an enemy, and creating unnecessary suffering for ourselves and others. It's like trying to swim upstream instead of going with the flow. Which brings us back to surrender. I'm still a little fuzzy on how that actually works, in practice. I mean, does it mean just letting people walk all over us?
That's a really common misconception. Surrender, as Tolle describes it, is not weakness or passivity. It's about aligning ourselves with the flow of life. Rather than resisting it, it's about recognizing that we don't always have control over external circumstances, but we can choose how we respond to them.
So it's more about choosing our battles wisely, knowing when to push forward and when to just kind of let go.
Exactly. He suggests that in the surrendered state, a different energy, a different quality flows into our doing.
We become more aligned with that source energy of being, acting from a place of inner peace and acceptance rather than fear and resistance.
Right. And when our actions are infused with that being, they become this joyful celebration of life energy that takes us more deeply into the now.
So it's not about giving up on our goals or aspirations. It's about approaching them from a place of non-resistance and allowing things to unfold naturally.
Yes. He gives the example of relationships, saying that if we can't accept what is, we'll never be able to accept anyone the way they are. We'll be constantly judging, criticizing, trying to change them, which ultimately leads to suffering and disconnection.
So true intimacy can only arise when there's an awareness of being, both in ourselves and in the other person. It's about seeing beyond the ego's projections and meeting each other in that space of present moment awareness.
Beautifully said. And this applies not just to romantic relationships, but to all our interactions.
Right. He also talks about how surrender can transform suffering into peace, even in the face of illness or loss or death.
He describes these as limit situations, where the ego's defenses are kind of stripped away, and we're forced to confront the reality of our own mortality.
It's like being pushed to the edge of a cliff.
Yeah.
And having no choice but to let go.
And in that letting go, a profound transformation can occur. He even mentions murderers on death row, who in the final hours of their lives experienced a state of egolessness.
Yeah.
And deep joy.
Wow. Because in the face of death, they were forced into complete acceptance of the unacceptable.
Yes. They surrendered to the now.
And in doing so, they found redemption. A complete release from the past and the ego's grip.
It's like they finally woke up from the nightmare of their own minds and discovered the peace that lies beyond. Tolle suggests that whenever disaster strikes or something goes seriously wrong, we have the opportunity to experience a similar alchemical transformation.
By surrendering to what is, allowing the pain to kind of flow through us without resistance, and trusting that there's a deeper intelligence at work, even when we can't see the whole picture.
Yeah, he doesn't really offer easy answers or quick fixes. His teachings require a deep commitment to inner work and a willingness to challenge our most fundamental beliefs about ourselves and the world.
It's not a path for the faint of heart.
But for those who are ready to awaken to the power of now, the rewards are immeasurable.
This deep dive into the power of now has definitely given me a lot to think about. It's like he's shining a light on a whole new way of being in the world, One that's based on presence, acceptance, and surrender.
It's a powerful invitation to step out of the drama of our minds.
Yeah.
And into the fullness of life as it is.
All right, I think my mind needs a break after all that. But before we wrap things up, there's one more concept from the book that I want to explore. The idea of the higher good. It's a phrase we hear a lot, but what does it actually mean? In the context of Tolle's teachings. So this higher good thing, it's not about things always going our way or having some perfect problem-free life.
Yeah, it's not about that.
It feels like we're often told to just look for the silver lining, but sometimes life just throws you a whole bunch of rusty nails.
Yeah, I know what you mean. That's the trap of the ego, always seeking pleasure and trying to avoid pain.
Yeah.
Totally suggesting a much deeper perspective shift. He says we can actually learn to see that even those really challenging situations, even stuff we might normally label as bad, can serve a higher purpose.
Okay, but how can something like illness or the loss of a loved one be part of a higher good? That's a really tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, I hear you. He's definitely not saying we should welcome suffering or pretend it doesn't exist. But he is pointing to the potential for transformation that's hidden within those experiences. Think about those limit situations we talked about. Sometimes it's only when we're pushed to our absolute edge that the ego's grip loosens.
Right.
And we can start to see a deeper truth.
I remember reading about that Zen master, Benzan.
Oh, yeah.
And the butcher. When he was asked for the best piece of meat, the butcher replied, every piece of meat I have is the best. There is no piece of meat here that is not the best.
And Banzan, like, upon hearing this, became enlightened. It's a great story.
Right. It is, but I'm not sure I totally get it.
Well, it's about recognizing the, like, perfection in every moment.
Oh, okay.
Accepting what is, without judgment or resistance. When we surrender to the Bellinor, now every experience becomes, like, the best, because we're no longer viewing life through the ego's desires and preferences. We can simply appreciate each moment for what it is, you know, without needing it to be different.
So the higher good is about trusting that even difficult experiences are somehow guiding us towards a deeper understanding of ourselves and the nature of reality. It's about surrendering to the flow of life, even when it takes us through some rough terrain.
Exactly. It's about having faith that there's a deeper intelligence at work, even when we can't see the whole picture.
Right.
An intelligence that's guiding us towards our own awakening, even through experiences that might seem kind of negative on the surface.
This kind of brings up a question for me, though. If we're not our minds, and like true happiness lies in the coal, now then what's the point of setting goals or striving for anything? If everything's already perfect as it is, why bother doing anything at all?
That's a great question, and Tolle actually addresses it directly in the book. It's not about becoming passive or giving up on our dreams or anything. He says it's about shifting our motivation for doing things. Instead of being driven by fear, lack, or the need to prove ourselves to the world, we can learn to act from a place of inner peace and alignment with our true purpose.
So it's not about forcing things or struggling to make things happen, but about taking inspired action that arises naturally from a state of presence.
Yes. He calls it surrendered action. It's about allowing our actions to flow from like a deeper source, from that place of connectedness to the now. And when we act from this place, the results kind of tend to reflect that quality of consciousness.
Our work becomes a joyful expression of our being, rather than just a means to an end.
Exactly. And then the world benefits from the higher vibration we bring to everything we do.
Okay, this is starting to make a lot of sense. But there's still this part of me that wonders, is it really possible to live in this state of presence all the time?
Right.
I mean, we're human. Yeah. We get distracted. We get caught up in our thoughts and emotions. Sometimes it feels like my mind is a runaway train.
Oh, yeah. He acknowledges that.
Yeah.
No one can be completely free from the mind's pull.
Okay.
But with practice, we can become more aware of when we've drifted into unconsciousness, you know, when we're lost in that mental chatter.
And then we can kind of gently guide ourselves back to the now.
Yes. Exactly. He offers this really simple question we can ask ourselves as a reminder. Just ask, am I at ease at this moment? If the answer is no, it's a sign that we're resisting what is, creating unnecessary suffering for ourselves. It's an opportunity to practice surrender.
Wow, this deep dive into the power of now has been quite a journey. Feels like we've only scratched the surface, but I definitely feel like I've gained some valuable insights. What stood out to you the most?
For me, it was the concept of the pain body. It's something I've kind of struggled with personally. And like having a name for it, understanding how it operates feels really empowering.
Me too. It's like finally recognizing that shadowy part of ourselves that we often try to ignore or push away, and realizing that it doesn't have to control us. You know, we can choose to observe it, to detach from its grip, and reclaim our power.
It's been a really fascinating conversation. This whole exploration has left me with a sense of hope, even amidst all the challenges we're facing in the world right now.
Yeah, it really has. It's like Tolle is saying, hey, the world might be a mess, but you don't have to be. You can choose to cultivate inner peace.
Right.
To become a source of light and awareness, and to contribute to a more conscious and harmonious world.
And it's not about waiting for some grand awakening to happen. It's about taking those small steps each day to practice presence, to surrender to what is, and to live from a place of love and acceptance.
That's a beautiful reminder. And who knows, maybe through our collective awakening, we can actually shift the course of human history.
That's a powerful thought to leave our listeners with.
Well, that's a wrap on our deep dive into the power of now. We hope this exploration has inspired you to embark on your own journey into the depths of consciousness. Until next time, may you find moments of stillness and joy in the midst of it all.